So one of the first things that I will always remember about my first CODA meeting was they wheeled out this whiteboard and the instructor was like, okay guys, start naming off things that are top of priority to you. And people were like, my husband, my boyfriend, my children, my family, myself, God, my higher power, my dog. After the instructor wrote down everything in list form on the whiteboard, she was like, these are all great things. Keep it going, guys. And then she was like, okay, but what needs to be at the top? And she left like this little space at the top of the whiteboard and she wrote in really big letters, G-O-D. And it was like, yes, God needs to be at the top of our priorities. And then I also learned a lot about boundaries, which boundaries are the lines that we draw to define what is ours, like our feelings, our emotions, our body, our time. Boundaries aren't walls to shut everybody out, but think of them more as fences with gates to where you're letting in all the helpful and healthy things and you're keeping out all the harmful stuff. Boundaries gave me the freedom to not take on other people's emotions and problems as my own. They helped me to create space with others to where I could stop trying to rescue them and really let God do all the work. Remember, our self-worth and well-being come from God. This is from page 15 in the CODA book. It says, when we attempt to codependently control or manipulate others, we turn ourselves into a higher power to maintain our sense of safety and well-being. When we codependently avoid others as well as adapt or change our behaviors for others, we give them, instead of our higher power, this control and strength. As we turn ourselves into a higher power or give this power to others, we leave little room for our higher power to work in our lives. This is our spiritual dilemma. You see, in recovery, we learn to build our faith and hope while continuing to surrender our will to God. We learn to let go of our destructive patterns and to stop compulsively relying on certain people, and instead put God in that number one spot. Everyone and everything else will follow after. You see, when our relationship with God starts to strengthen, that's when our relationships with others start to strengthen just as much. Because God is going to replace this overwhelming tiredness and fear and sorrow and shame and guilt with resiliency and strength. Our childhood wounds and traumas and feelings will progressively heal. Letting go of control and avoidance starts to become easier. Now, there are different kinds of boundaries that CODA does talk about. The first one is physical, which that one's really referring to respecting our personal space, our safety, our health. And then the next one's emotional. That's separating our feelings from others and not taking on their emotions anymore. Then there's spiritual. That's honoring our own walk with God as well as the next person's. And there's time and energy. And that's really trying to figure out how much time or attention you can give someone without building resentment. Now, with setting boundaries, you might run into some struggles. One of them may be saying yes when you really want to say no, or feeling guilty if you simply need to rest or have a break. Or there's the rescuing or always trying to fix other people at the expense of your peace. And then there's avoiding conflict to keep the peace but building that resentment. All of these instances you can help by clear communication to avoid building up this huge explosion or resentment. Matthew 5:37 says, let your yes be yes and your no, no. It says it right there in the Bible. So use those words as your strength for the next time that you're setting a boundary. Remember that God is the one leading you through this, that you don't have to rely on your own strength, but God instead. And remember that boundaries reflect God's freedom for us. No matter what others try to tell you, remind yourself that boundaries are a sign of love and respect for ourselves and God. So keep sticking to your boundaries. You know right from wrong. And if you have any doubts or any questions, lean on God, turn to God, pray to Him, talk to Him like your best friend, and He will be right there for you. So if you haven't already yet, start making a list of codependent behaviors that you're noticing pop up in your everyday life. And tomorrow we're going to break down what to do with that list. So I hope you have a good night tonight, and I will see you on the next video. Peace out.